Rolodex, the happiest day of my life. In 68 years, I could tell you when it was. How about that, right? It's the day I realized I was pregnant with my first child, my daughter. Okay? 34 years old. My biological clock was ticking, as they might say. And this was such a precious event for me. Okay? And backstory, when I was 23 or 24, I was a book reviewer for a newspaper, and someone gave me a book on birth, right, to review. It was the current book. And I read it, and I thought it was a satire at first, because in my angsty 23 years old, I was like, who's gonna do this? Who would ever do that? Who would ever be pregnant and then all of a sudden go to this place and they take your baby away? I mean, I'd have to punch somebody out, that kind of thing, all right? And I knew that, and so I had, at 23, I said, I'm having my baby at home, where it's safe or whatever. And then when I was 34, well, okay, how do you have your baby at home when you live in an area where it's not really an option? What is that all about? So that was years ago. That was back in the early 80s. We were born in 81, 82. Happiest day of my life. What year was that? Okay. So here's what happened for me, and I wonder if this happens to people. I was so happy to be pregnant, and I couldn't wait to have this baby. But when I thought about the birth, it was a window that just wouldn't open. Affirm your birth and imagine your birth, and it was just this window that wouldn't open, and I was like, okay. So what's a girl to do? All right, and I was in Georgia at the time, in Augusta, Georgia, and I thought, well, I know what I want. I might not have articulated it this way, but I want to be nurtured. I am nurturing a baby. I wouldn't have articulated it this way, but I knew I am nurturing a baby, and this is a fractal universe. And as I nurture a baby, I want someone to nurture me. It makes it, do you see what I mean? It just follows that if you're being nurtured, no one has to teach you how to nurture a baby. We don't really have to teach each other how to nurture each other, but somehow when we're nurtured, we just pass it on, all right? So I learned really early that the greatest thing that you can give to pregnant women and their families is to nurture them. Just to nurture them, to love them and nurture them. All right, we can talk about what that looks like in a minute, but I wanted to be nurtured in my pregnancy. And you know what? This was back in the early 80s. And so I thought I would go to a female doc. And I found that a lot of the female docs were not very nurturing. They were very aloof. They were very and I understood why. I understood that still in the 80s, if you were a woman, you had to prove, okay, that you were emotionally sound and reasonable, and you could do everything that any other practitioner could do. So I found that the ladies that I met were not really nurturing. I was like, well, what am I supposed to do? And I thought, okay, all right, I'll look for a grandfather. So here was my selection for an OB. I had heard about a doc, and he had saved a child's life at peril to his own. And I was like, okay, you're my doc. All right, you have the nurturing gift. So, and I liked him, and he was really cool. But I still couldn't open the door of the birth until one day I'm working at a camera store, and I'm at the counter, and I'm pregnant. I'm like 6 months pregnant, and I'm showing. And when you are pregnant, regardless of our spiritual beliefs, everybody, I think, on the planet understands that a pregnant woman is carrying life, and we respect that. In fact, we're often in awe of it. And when you're pregnant, you sort of embody the goddess or something like that, the light or life. And people just come up to you and talk to you and hold the door for you and carry your groceries for you and say, hello, ma'am, how are you? And so you are just like, yes, come, I will. Yes, no, you can't touch. So, one afternoon I was working at this camera store and this gentleman came in to pick up his baby pictures and he said something like, oh, you want to see our baby pictures? Because once again, I'm pregnant and you're having one. Well, I just had one. And he was like, our baby is really special. And at first I kind of resisted that because whose baby isn't special? But all right, let's see your special baby. And then he said, our baby was born at home. And all of a sudden, the angels were singing in the corners, okay? And it was like, whoa. And I was like, who, how did you, where, when, what? Give me the details, okay? So he told me that there was a midwife who lived in South Carolina, a couple hours away, but that she would come over to Georgia and, you know, you could have a home birth. And he gave me her number. I went home, I talked to my husband, like, this is going to be amazing. He was totally on the page. I called her up. It's a Friday night. This is going to, oh, I'm sorry, the gentleman also, his name is Bobby, he also said, you should get spiritual midwifery. Back then, spiritual midwifery was just hot off the press, okay? So I go, I get spiritual midwifery, I read everything, I'm ready for the phone call. So I call. This is probably the most important phone call of my life, up to date, okay? So, the unconscionable happens. She says things to, I get the idea that she's not engaging with me, you know? She's kind of aloof. Then she says, so, this is your first pregnancy? Uh-huh. And she said, so how old are you? By this time I was 35. I said, I'm 35. And she says, 35? Huh. As if that's a problem? You know, and I'm like, this isn't going the way I thought it would go, all right? And she says to me, write me a letter and tell me why you want to have a home birth. So I didn't know what to do with that because I wasn't aware at the moment that midwifery was even a political issue, okay? But she was in a state in which midwives were not licensed. You know, they called midwives lay midwives back then, or traditional midwives. She was in a state where traditional or independent midwifery wasn't licensed, and so she had to be very circumspect about her clients. So I got that, and I forgave her immediately, but I wrote her a letter and I said, so listen, yes, I'm 35, but you know what, I'm having a wonderful pregnancy, and my baby is perfect for me, and I'm gonna have a great birth, and I think I'm gonna be a really good mother, so I hope you would like to join me, you know. And I could really say this because I want to tell you something else that happened to me that really, these are very formative things. I'm telling you this because of that. During my pregnancy, when I was 35, and I had a good friend, and she had lupus, and she had lost a number of babies, okay? And sometimes she would lose her babies at 5-6 months even. She had lost 5 babies. So she had her own personal endocrinologist at the Medical College of Georgia, which was in Augusta, where I lived. And she said to me, you know, you are 35, I can get you in with Dr. Rick and you can get an amniocentesis. And I was like, I don't know if I really want an amniocentesis. And she said, if you are 35, you should probably have an amniocentesis. And you know, sometimes when you are pregnant, you get spun easily. You know what I mean? People can convince you of things, all right? So I'm like, okay, I'm on my way to get an amniocentesis with Dr. Rick. Okay, so I go in and I'm lying on the table and they put the ultrasound machine on and I look over and I see my baby. And all of a sudden, I know. I don't think, I don't feel, I know. I know my baby is fine. And I'm like, wow, thank you. Thank you. So I'm taking the thing off because I don't need the amniocentesis now, right? I'm taking the thing off and Dr. Rick says, no, wait a minute, we haven't done it yet. And I said, I know, it's good, I'm okay. He's thinking, I thought that was it. He's like, no, we haven't really done it yet. And I know. And he's like, no, and I'm like, yes, and I'm like, anyway, I was elated. I was so elated that I picked him up, I whirled him around 3 times, kissed him and left, okay? Because I have been given a treasure. I learned right there, and this has informed my practice forever, there is a place for everything. And sometimes things, Things impinge on you and give you knowing, and it's the last thing you think would ever do it. I was not the person who would think a clinical procedure would affect me in such a way that I had knowing. And so women who say to me now, I have to have an ultrasound, I don't really want one. I'm like, what should I do? You know, we could change a caregiver, but no, I don't want to. I have but I have to have an ultrasound, I don't want to. And I'm like, well, here, just bless it. If you're going to have it, bless it. Go in there knowing that this is the most sacred ultrasound on the planet. Because if you go in there, or if you find yourself needing a procedure, ultimately, and it's your will that this procedure should happen. All right, I'm not saying being railroaded into having a procedure. I'm saying if it's like, okay, this is happening, bless it. There is a place for everything. I learned that in my first pregnancy, and that has informed my practice. Okay? All right, so here's what happened next. So, my midwife came to visit me, and you know how we do this thing, what is my destiny? What is my place in life? What is my work in life? Well, I can tell you how many years I've spent doing that, right? When I got pregnant, I knew exactly what my work in life was. I knew I was going to be a mother and a midwife at the same time. I knew they were coming to me at the same time. I was 35 years old. I was like, bring it, okay, bring it. And I knew I was going to apprentice with the midwife that was going to attend my birth. She didn't know that. She did not know that for a while, but I knew that. So she gets to my house, right? And here's another thing I loved about her. She lived about 2 hours and 15 minutes away from me. She always came to see me prenatally. I thought that was such a level of respect, all right, that she came to me. And I know it took her whole day, you know, 2.5 hours there, 2.5 hours back, 2 hours with me or whatever. That was her whole day. She gave that to me. And I thought, when I'm a midwife, I'm gonna bring it to women. I'm gonna respect women. I'm gonna make it easier for them, not for me. Okay? And ultimately then for both of us. Because that's nurturing. I felt so nurtured by that. See what I mean? Whew. So, she comes to our house, and now I have a real live midwife in my living room. Okay? How often do you get that? Do you know what I'm saying? I ask her every question under the sun. I go, so when do you take vacations? You know, how does that work with your kids? You know, after the visit, you see, she said to my husband on the porch, you people are very thorough. She said, I don't think I've ever been grilled like that before. All right? See, she didn't know. And I decided also that I wasn't going to tell her for a while because we needed to have a deep connection. She needed to know me. She needed to know my heart and my soul, and that I knew I was coming, and that I knew it would be all right. Because I didn't want her to say, oh, you're going to be a mother. You know what I mean? You call me in 2 years, all right? Because I knew that wasn't what's going to happen. It's coming. I'm coming. Motherhood and midwifery at the same time. And so, and also I wanted to feel into our deeper relationship. This is a woman that was going to teach me about birth, all right? And here's what settled it for me. One day, I guess I had heard that if you have your first child at 35, it's something like harder or something like that. I do believe that that is a myth, but I have heard that. So I loved my midwife and I loved my partner. And I didn't know how I was going to be with pain. I didn't, you know, so here's what I did. Very close to term, I said, I want to talk to you about something. I want to tell you something. So we sat on my bed. I'll never forget the day, the way the light was coming through the window, and I said, you know, I really love you and I really appreciate you and my partner too. So I want to apologize beforehand if I seem ungrateful, if I get irritable in my labor, if the pain makes me not grateful. And she said, oh, you'll be fine. And then she said, but I hear you, and I accept your apology. That was the most liberating thing anyone could have ever done for me. Why? Because if she said, oh, you'll be fine, don't you worry about that, I would have still been carrying this. But when she said, I hear you, I accept your apology, I'll take that off you, I was liberated. I could be myself. I could be myself in labor. What a gift. All right, and she taught me that, and these are some of the things that have informed me, all right, and how I approach women. Listen to women, hear what they're saying, all right, take it, reframe it back to them. So what happened was, I was pretty late. Siobhan was due on June 14th, and I had her on July 18th. Yeah, this is back in '82, and I got to tell you this part. All right, I got to tell you the part about how I had a doctor, right? And I really liked and respected him, but I knew I was going to have my baby at home, and I was going to have my baby with a midwife. So one day, I went in and I said, I like and respect you, but I really think I'm going to have my baby at home. And I thought, I wonder how that's going to go. All right. Well, all of a sudden, there was this long silence, and then all of a sudden he jumped up and ran out of the room. And I thought, what's he getting, the police or something? And he came back with the largest book I have ever seen, okay? And he opened it up, he thumped it down there, boom. And he opened it up and he paged through it and he read me about placenta previa. And then he thumped through it again and he read about abruptio placenta. And then he thumbed through it, got to the back, and he read me about secondary after. And then he closed the book, and he said, okay, I've done my job. How else can I help you? And I was like, whoa, cool. Meaning, I have warned you of some of the major risks of having a baby out of a hospital. There you are. You've got them. How else can I facilitate you? And this is amazing, right? It's important to tell the stories of these doctors and other caregivers because it's not all us and them. Please, that is so non-productive, all right? So he was pretty amazing. So I said, well, will you do backup for me if I need you? And he said, absolutely. And I said, well, then what do you need from me? And he said, well, I'd like you to have concurrent care for the rest of your pregnancy. How do you feel about that? Will you just come in and visit me? And I said, yeah, I can do that. And he said, okay, anything else? And I said, yeah, there is one more thing. And he said, what? And I said, if I should come in, if I should need your services and, come in, I wouldn't want you to make me feel less for my decisions. I would not want you to pull rank on me. And he said, I will never do that. I will never do that. Whoa. All right, so I went to see him. He was pretty cool about me going overdue because I certainly did. He asked me if I would come in and do a non-stress test one time, and I said, sure, all right, because this is our arrangement, it's, And I had my baby, all right? And it was a very straightforward first-time mom. For me, it was 12 hours to push my baby